Another episode of the Keto Answers podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Gustin, and it's my job to get to the bottom of the ketogenic diet to get you the answers you need to have the health you want. This week, we have Jason Wittrock. Jason is a beast of a man, and he has been using the ketogenic diet for years, not only for himself, but all of his clients as well. You can find him as a massively popular YouTube channel where he publishes tons of content on how he uses ketogenic diet on a day-to-day basis. We got into a lot in this episode, including how Jason has changed his mind about the ketogenic diet, including carb ups and when he uses carbs now or when he doesn't use carbs now, what he needs to do to lose fat on a ketogenic diet when he's preparing for a photo shoot, and everything that you need to do to get back on the wagon if you get kicked out of ketosis. Jason is super passionate about this stuff, and I love this conversation, and I hope you do too. Before we get to the episode, I wanted to chat about our sponsor, Perfect Keto. Perfect Keto is all about making a ketogenic diet healthy and accessible. Whether you're reading all of our online guides or articles or enjoying Perfect Keto's exogenous ketones or any other keto-friendly products, everything you need to make keto work for you is at perfectketo.com. I know what you're thinking. Hey, aren't you the founder of Perfect Keto? Yep, that's right. And all of my insanely high standards have been put into making each and every product. My background as a functional medicine clinician helps me craft the cleanest and healthiest possible products and the best information about the ketogenic diet. Head on over to perfectketo.com to learn anything you need to know about the ketogenic diet. And if you've never tried any of our products before, feel free to use the code KETOPODCAST for 20% off your first order. With that being said, let's get into the show. J-Rock, buddy. What's going on? Thanks for being on the show. How are you, man?
Thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. A little chilly day here in San Francisco, but getting over it. Probably not as bad as where you are.
I'm in Denver, so I don't want to hear it, brother.
Well, I got my bone broth with some MCT oil and Guinness, so I'm going to be staying warm.
There you go. I'm currently sipping on a keto coffee just to get psyched up for this.
Love it. What do you put in there?
Tablespoon of butter, tablespoon of coconut oil, and sometimes heavy whipping cream, but we went without that this time.
Nice. Are you a focused kind of keto guy?
Me personally speaking, I can get away with eating dairy. It doesn't affect me at all. I eat cheese, heavy cream, doesn't have any effect. But I do know some people who've kind of hit plateaus and things kind of bring up the dairy and the lactose component and back away from it. I personally never have an issue with it, but
yeah. So I wanted to get you on just to kind of explain everything that you've done. You were kind of one of the first movers, in my opinion, in the ketogenic diet space. Actually, someone who does the work and isn't somebody who
jumped on the train.
Just trying to get page views and spitting out like all the stuff they're doing. Like you've actually worked with a ton of people. Just give us a little bit of background about kind of where you were at a couple of years ago, how you got in the ketogenic space, and what you've done to help people.
So it's a rather long story, but I'll kind of shorten it up as much as I possibly can. Okay, great. So I've been an athlete my whole life. I grew up a wrestler. Naturally, I kind of got into the fitness space as a personal trainer. And there was nobody on the face of the earth that believed in calories in, calories out as much as I did, especially growing up. As a wrestler, I would make heavy, hard weight cuts. So I would lose 10 pounds a week. Over the course of 2 days, I would put those 10 pounds back on, and it was back to, you got a week to get it off. And the only way to do it back then was eat less food and run as long as you possibly can. So I thought it was just that easy. You want to know how to lose weight? That's it. So I got into personal training, and I took that philosophy of you got to train as hard as me, and you got to really watch what you eat. Built up a pretty good client base. But I started noticing they were falling off and they were suffering. And I kind of in the beginning said, they don't have the mental fortitude that I have. They don't want it bad enough. All of those excuses. And finally, I said, you know what? There must be something else out there. There must be something I'm missing. Maybe it's not as easy as run a bunch of miles and starve yourself. So I kind of checked my ego at the door, did some research, came across a guy named Gary Taubes. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah.
So I read so like 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I picked up his book, read it cover to cover, and it literally changed my life. It literally
good calories, bad calories?
Why we get fat.
Okay.
Yeah, Why We Get Fat, which is kind of a summary of all his books, to be honest. And I was mind blown, man. I could not believe what I was reading. Essentially, long story short, it wasn't a behavioral problem, meaning you're eating too much food and you're not exercising enough. It was a hormonal problem. And at that point, I had never even heard of the word insulin before. It was all new to me. And I just took it and ran with it. I tried it on myself, restricting carbohydrates as a way to prevent your body from secreting insulin. Insulin being the fat storage hormone. So I tried it on myself, and it worked immediately. And I was like, yes, this is amazing. I also knew in the fitness industry, I found out at that point, doing competitions and things, that every single bodybuilder, every person that in the fitness industry, what do they do before they get ready for shows? They cut the carbs, right? So I was like, this makes sense. I'm rolling with it. Worked for me. I started putting other clients on it, thinking it was like the holy grail. And I started noticing that it got results pretty quick, but the energy levels of my clients and myself were extremely low. And it was kind of hard to stick to. I mean, if anybody out there has been on a low carb diet, just purely low carb, you know that, it's kind of a hard existence. And so that's kind of what I faced. And I changed the strategy up with just low carb. So I started off strict low carb. Then I was doing carb cycling, carb backloading. I was really trying to find any strategy of low carb that I could sustain for a long, long, long period of time. Because in my business and who I am, I have to be ready, photo shoot ready, in shape all year round. My sponsors could call tomorrow and say, hey, let's do a photo shoot. I have to be ready. So so that brought me to about 3 years ago. And I was burned out from low carb stuff. And I got an opportunity to work with children who suffer from mental illness. And they called me up and they said, hey, we want you to train these kids. At that point, all I was doing was helping people get bigger biceps. They wanted to be shredded. They want to look like me, all this superficial stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I get into the mental health facility, and all of a sudden, they're like, hey, here are your clients. And you take a look around the room, and you see scars on their arms. Some of them were literally talking to themselves, seeing things in the sky. A few of them had tried to kill themselves probably 2 or 3 days before they actually saw me. And it was the biggest eye opener I'd ever experienced. Long story short, I was also at that point introduced to the ketogenic diet. See, the problem with all these children was they all took a medication that made them gain 30, 40 pounds right off the bat, right? Triglyceride levels went up. All kinds of negative stuff was happening. And the long story short, they all end up dying by the time they're 40, 45 years old. So they were doing this study to see, what diet and exercise can have an effect and try and reduce that kind of impact from the medication. It was extremely successful, but I learned about the ketogenic diet. And again, I had to check myself. I'm like, okay, wait a minute here. I already took one of my philosophies, threw it out the window, calories in, calories out. Now I understand about carbs and how they're bad and how they kill you and how they make you fat. And now you're telling me that I should eat 75% of my calories from fat? Like, you want me to eat butter? And I thought they were crazy, Anthony, literally. And also at that point, I was at the pinnacle of my fitness career, and I'm thinking, I want to try this, but I can't risk it. Like, if, like I said, I have to be in shape 24/7, 365. But I've always been like an experiment. I try everything, right? So I jumped in full force. I'll never forget the day I put butter in my coffee the first time. I literally sat there and said, well, this is either going to kill me or this is going to be the best thing ever. And it was the best thing ever. And so
you survived to tell your
I survived. Yeah. So for the last 2 years, I put butter in my coffee. No, but at that point, 2.5 years ago, the only research you could find on this stuff was medical journals, some experiment stuff. I think at that point, Stephen Finney and Volek had some information out. But when you scoured YouTube back then, you found nothing. Okay, nothing. And as a matter of fact, if you did find something, it was somebody in my industry telling me you should never do it, right? And so I said, you know what, man, I just got to get this out there. I just got to tell people. So I made a quick video. At that point, I'd never even done YouTube. And I think the title of the video was How to Lose Weight with the Secret to Losing Weight with the Ketogenic Diet. It almost has 1 million views at this point. But I never in my wildest dreams back then shooting that video, never. I always knew it was going to get big, right? But I never could have imagined where it's at today. Never. So it's been really cool to see the progression, see the growth, see all the lives that have been changing, see the way they're using it to cure cancer and Parkinson's and all these amazing things. I'm just glad that I, got to witness it all and be a part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll dig into kind of, that was 2 years ago, maybe 1.5 years that you started doing this, and you've been super active since then. But let's bring it back to, you said you were doing low carb and you felt your energy levels dip and you felt problems here. What did you do when you restricted carbohydrates? How did you replace that food? Or did you just not?
So at that point, I was a fitness model, a bodybuilder, and I was taking all my information from that stuff. And the big fear was, you go low carb, you're going to lose all the muscle. And that scared me to death. And so what do you do instinctively? You're like, well, protein builds muscle. So you pop protein up to outrageous amounts. And so that's instinctively what I did. I was going super low carb, like 30 grams or less. And I was doing like 250 grams of protein, weighing only 150 pounds. And not one time did I think maybe I should bump my fat up. Right. Maybe I didn't even pay attention to the fat number. It was just shunned. It was like one of those things where don't even say the word. And so that's my body essentially was trying to create energy from the protein. It was essentially just turning the protein into glucose. And I was living off stimulants, so pre-workouts and caffeine and everything I could it like pains me to think about that era. It worked, but it was not sustainable. So right. That's the only corrections I knew how to make.
And so, like you said, what happens then is you're low carb, but you're not really in ketosis.
Exactly.
And so your body's not really getting carbohydrates. And so if it doesn't get carbohydrates, but it's still bumping up insulin, increasing your blood sugar a little bit, you're basically going to be in between fuel states and not really have much. Yeah,
your body is just super, super confused. And trust me, you feel it. Here's the deal. You can either run on carbs or fat. And when you take away the carbs and you don't increase the fat, what's the body do? It's like, well, damn, I guess we got to start burning all this protein off and start trying to utilize that. The problem with protein is it spikes insulin, like you just said. So it's a big conundrum. The body freaks out. And you can do it short term, but not long term, because you need a viable, sustainable energy source. And if I had just increased the fat, it would have been a much better existence.
Right. And so did you start testing ketone levels and stuff like that to make sure you're in ketosis when you did the switch and started putting butter in your coffee, or was that a long-term thing?
When I went keto, when I decided I'm going to do the ketogenic diet, and when I found the ketogenic diet, it all made sense. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's. And so I did the P-strip tests because at that point, the blood test, I didn't even really think I knew about it back then. There was no, you can do a breathalyzer test today. Back then, none of that was there. And I started using the urinalysis tests and, got a little obsessive with that, which is why I kind of preach to keep it easy on that stuff. But yeah, I was testing ketones and everything.
Right. And so this is one of the things that I think I've written about recently, which is that low carb diets and ketogenic diets are not necessarily the same thing. Mm-mm. And so this is where a lot of people say, oh, I tried keto, it just sucks, doesn't work for me. I feel like crap. It's like same mistake that the majority of people go through is that they don't test. They don't increase the amount of food they're eating, so they remove all of this carbohydrate, but they don't add anything to it. Or like you said, they don't add fat and they add protein, or they compensate in some other way.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing so it's hard for people, man. Like if you just knock on your neighbor's door, they think that it's calories in, calories out. And then all of a sudden you have to say to them, no, listen, it's actually carbohydrates. It's all hormonal. You got to keep the insulin under control. That's one big, huge barrier. It's like, you got to convince them of that. And that's hard in my experience, very difficult to get across to people. And it's much harder to explain to people. So then they go out and they're like, okay, carbs are bad, avoid the carbs. But then the next hurdle is now you need to embrace fat. Right. Even though you've been told your whole life that it's going to kill you, trust me, you need to increase the fat. And even when people get it, like they're like, okay, cool, I'll do that. Subconsciously, the day they wake up and they're like, I'm on this diet, they think about cutting the carbs. They're like, avoid carbs at all costs because they're everywhere. And they don't realize that they're not getting enough fat. And unconsciously, they still have that fear. So in my opinion, it's one of the biggest reasons why people fail is they don't embrace the fat, and they go thinking about what they can't have, which is carbs, instead of thinking, I need to find fat. That's what my body's running on, and I need to get it in. So you're right. It's a big problem.
Right. And I think another thing too is that even if people are okay with it, and I struggle with this problem a lot of the times too, like I'm so full all the time that it's actually tough for me to eat enough to keep my weight the way, like the place I want it at. And so getting enough food and like making sure that you're actually adding enough fat. Like I mentioned before.
Especially if you live an active lifestyle.
Yeah. If you're active and, I'm working all the time too. So like I'm super busy and I just don't think about food. And so it could be 3-4 PM and I haven't eaten yet. I'm like, crap. Well, I'm going to go to a dinner at 5 or 6 or 7. So I'm not going to eat now and then go to there. And so it's like, I get one meal a day. Like how do I actually hit like 2,500, 3,000 calories, like minimum per day? with this stuff, it actually can be pretty challenging.
Yeah. I don't pay any attention whatsoever to how many calories I consume, just to make that very clear. So I don't even have a range. I let my body decide how many calories it needs on a daily basis. And as long as I, get the macro percentages down, I'm good. But I know what you mean. It's difficult to eat. I always say it's literally impossible to overeat on this diet. Anybody that wants to comment, I did a 4,000 calorie challenge. I ate 4,000 calories for 21 straight days in a row. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my entire life.
Yeah. Just because of the volume, or?
Yeah, the volume, the amount of fat, and how the satiety effect that fat has. Literally, it was a mental struggle. It was harder than starving myself, and I've done plenty of that before. Trust me. It was like primarily macadamia nuts, which are like little fat bombs. Macadamia nuts. I was basically doubling up my keto coffee. So I was putting 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of cocoa. I was taking MCT oil. It got to a point to where I had to rely on liquids. So I was taking in a lot of oils in order to kind of get that number up. My average fat intake of the 4,000 calories was around 350 grams a day. And I only weighed 150 pounds. So, right. But anyways, I definitely know what you mean. It's almost scary sometimes when you get to like 3 or 4 o'clock and you haven't eaten. It's like something inside you is like, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah. And so what were the results of that? Nothing? No body count changes?
I had lost 2 pounds, and I lost 0.2% in body fat.
So pretty much no change.
Pretty much no change. I quickly realized before I did the challenge. So the idea was 4,000 calories at a true ketogenic ratio. So for those who don't know, that's 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carbs, right? So the problem I realized right away was 20% protein would have been like 200 grams of protein. Again, I only weigh 150 pounds. That's a lot. Right. And I knew that protein spiked insulin. I knew that was going to be a problem. So I ended up coming on a daily basis more around 10-12% protein. And so I think had I kept that protein level where it hypothetically should have been for the experiment, I don't think I would have gotten the same results. So
do you have kind of an upper limit that you've noticed works for you for protein before you get either kicked out of ketosis or raising?
Like I said, I always stay between 10 and 20%. No matter how many calories. Okay. Like some days, during that time, I was eating 4,000 calories, and I was like 3.5 on the blood meter. Like my ketones were going up, even when I eat less. So now, obviously, I'm not eating 4,000 calories. Some days, today, I might eat 1,500. Who knows? If I work out, maybe tomorrow I'll eat 2,500. I've found that as long as I keep my protein between 10 and 20%, and I keep my carbs under 50 grams total or less, I have no problems at all staying in ketosis. Okay. So that's really just what I focus on. And anybody who needs to, I don't have to lose a lot of weight. I'm not in this to, I don't need to lose weight. But for anybody that does, I always recommend keeping that protein closer to 10% than 20%.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's good advice. I've noticed as well, like I feel better and I perform better when that is probably closer to the 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
It can be challenging for sure to get that in. Like you said, totally. You might have to go more towards oils and do that type of route, because if you go animal fat and you're just consuming a lot of protein.
It's hard to hit that. It's hard to keep that ratio. You're right.
So you were also when you were doing just the low carb, you're doing a lot of carb cycling and stuff like that. Is that a strategy that you still use? And what's your opinion on that in the ketogenic space? This is kind of like a hot topic.
It's a good question. It's a great question. I'm the one to ask too, I think. So I took basically what I did when I first discovered the ketogenic diet. I'm a realist, Anthony. Like I'm just by nature, I'm a very realistic person. And I knew that yes, this was the greatest diet on earth. I found the holy grail. I'm like, finally, this time is for real. This is amazing. But I also knew that the average person, including myself, I wasn't going to stay in ketosis the rest of my life. As bad as I knew carbs were, as devastating as they have on you, I'm going to eat cake again. Like I'm going to have pizza again. That's just life. So what I sought out to do was create a program, called Keto Cycle. And it was essentially a cyclical ketogenic diet approach. It had 3 different basically avenues. So if you had more than 30 pounds to lose, I was saying once every 3 weeks, take in some carbs. And that was kind of just a way of me holding a carrot in front of people. Physiologically, didn't matter. I wasn't doing it for that reason. It was just, let me keep these people on this diet as long as possible. Because if I just came on YouTube or came out and said, hey, never touch carbs again, keto is the way to go, never cheat, and you'll never fail, everybody's going to fail. Like I've just experienced working with too many people. So then there was another phase where you could do once every 2 weeks if you wanted to build muscle, once every week. And it sold like crazy. It was one of the very first programs out there. So I had benefit of being first to market. I made them. Yeah. And so I realized a lot from that. Like 10,000 people got this, right? And it worked for a lot of people. And I was getting amazing transformation stories from people. But I was also at the same time getting a lot of people that were like, yo, I was doing so great. I took my carb day and now I'm in the gutter. Can you please pull me out? Like they mentally could not. It backfired. Okay. So like carbs are like being addicted to drugs. All right. And so when you say, hey, you need to quit doing the drugs, and then 3 weeks from now, I'll give them all back to you and you can run wild for an entire day. Right. Not good. Not good at all. Works for some people, but it really made me kind of wonder. And I also was kind of experiencing that myself. I'd come up on my carb day because it was scheduled. And I was like, oh man, I don't even really feel like it. Like, I don't feel like taking this carb day. I was getting a lot of questions about that too. People were like, hey, come up on my carb day. I don't feel like having it. And I would just tell them, don't take it then. So my philosophy has changed. Yes, cyclical works for a lot of people, but the way I personally do it now and the way I encourage other people to do it, go keto, right? As long as you possibly can. And when you come across that moment where you're at a birthday party, you're out celebrating, it's okay. I would not do a full cheat day. I would do just a cheat meal. And as soon as that meal is over, once the last bite goes down, you must recommit yourself. And you say to yourself, I'm going as long as I can again, keto. And that's it. It's not scheduled. It's just your goal is to do the best you can for as long as you can. And once that cheat meal comes, because it's inevitable. We all cheat. Like it's inevitable. It's what you end up doing after that cheat meal that is going to make or break you. Okay. So that's kind of what I preach now.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And so it's interesting that you're using more carb cycling as a psychological.
Yeah. Because it worked for me when I was doing carb cycling. So I just basically took that philosophy of carb cycling and said, well, let's apply it to the keto space. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get afraid too that if they get out of ketosis, that will throw your hands up. It's ruined. Shit hit the fan, and there's no point. Like you might as well not even continue. And I think that's
I agree. Especially when you're like measuring ketones and the number goes down, and you're like, and here's the deal. You will feel like shit the next day when you take a cheat meal. If you take a cheat day, it's going to be multiplied. And people, they jump on the scale carbs attract water. So when you decide to have a cheat meal or, no matter what, you're going to wake up feeling like you were at the bar the entire night before. Okay. And people they just can't deal with it. The bloating, the inflammation, the guilt, the how am I going to get back to where I was before? So that's why, I just say go as long as you can, man. And understand that cheat meals are a part of life and you will deserve it at that point. But get your ass right back on the train and forget that cheat meal ever happened.
Right. And I think planning it, like you said, forces this weird behavior where even if you don't feel like it, you feel obligated, like, it's cheat day or cheat meal, and I probably should have that. Now, a lot of people don't realize too, like, this is one of the things that I'm not a huge fan. It's like Tim Ferriss is like this big, he does for a body and everything and says like, once a week you should do. And I understand that from a psychological standpoint, it's really great to give people that flexibility and it's more of a sustainable approach. But I think like if you do that with real food in mind, it's a little bit better for you overall. So what happens is the cells that line your gut that lead to gut dysfunction. So like, let's say you eat a bunch of processed oils, inflammatory sugars in processed wheat or grains, which is like what a baked good is essentially. That destroys your gut lining. And at that point, what happens is those cells take like 7 to 10 days to regenerate and to have a better integrity. And so if you're doing this on a weekly basis, you're never giving your gut time to heal. And so if you're eating like cherry apple turnovers every Sunday, to your heart's content, you were basically destroying your gut every week and not letting it heal. And then right when it's about to heal again, boom, you're giving it a huge bomb again. So
interesting.
Like if you want carbohydrates, it's fine. Like I don't think, I mean, I'm at a point now where like I look at even like a 70% dark chocolate bar. I'm like, I don't even consider it food. It is with how crazy I am with food quality. But I mean, you can definitely have really delicious stuff that's this real food based, but like trying to go after and make cheat meals so aggressively unhealthy. Yeah.
Like you're going for like the hard drugs. You know what I mean? Like you're like, let me get the hardest drug out there and let me just overdose on it. That's interesting about the gut bacteria and things. I never even realized that. You know, when I was creating this cyclical approach program, which by the way is no longer for sale, I pulled it off and no longer sell it. That's how much I believe in, and just, you know, in that, that's interesting. Because well, the scheduling is, I think, the problem. I didn't know that Tim Ferriss actually recommended that. But what I was going to say, is I tried to justify with the benefits. Oh, you're giving a carrot. You're giving somebody a reward. It's all going to go in muscle glycogen. You're actually going to gain weight. You know, but in the end of the day, psychology rules, and it's just too difficult. So ideally, I would have loved for it to work out. I would love to have never had somebody say, I would have loved for everybody to have said, thank you so much for giving me my cheat day. Right. But it didn't happen.
And so do you think that there's any physiological benefit from doing any kind of increase in carbs or not being in a ketogenic state? 100%.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Is I was literally trying to justify that there was a performance. There's a performance benefit. You're gonna have the best workout ever. You're gonna get a good pump. It's gonna fill up the muscle glycogen. All these things. And the negatives far outweighed those positives, if you want to call them positives. But
so like you said, you can't just be in a ketogenic state 100% of the time. And I know some people who are super hardcore about it. And then somebody sees me eat a sweet potato and they're like, whoa. Keto guy here, not keto. What the hell's going on? And I'm like, okay. Like majority of the time, I eat very high fat.
Sweet potato. Hey, we should have a sweet potato together and blow everybody's mind.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Let's do it. No, I know what you mean. People get very, everybody's different. I have a good friend who had a brain tumor, right? And the doctors put him on a ketogenic diet. He can never have a cheat meal.
Right, which is totally understandable, right?
Yeah, but he's not looking at me like, oh, you had a sweet potato? Like, what are you? It's like sacrilege. This whole thing's grown. Like I said, 2 years ago, it would have been no big deal. Now everybody is like, it's almost following like the veganism type thing. From what I see, it's like, you know what I mean? Where it's almost like a damn religion. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what
who's doing keto? Who's doing keto better than me?
There's certain dogma that got instilled where you identify as this or not. And so like, if you have a sweet potato, then you're not a keto anymore. And if
you're out of the herd.
Yeah. It's this club that if you have a sweet potato, you're kicked out of it. It's pretty ridiculous.
Sorry, you're at it, man.
And so I hope that we avoid that with the keto space, kind of like
I agree.
How the paleo movement went through a little bit of that, where the paleo police come out and if you had this certain nut or something like this, people just freak out and lose their minds. So I think you get a little bit of carbohydrate. I think it's just fine. I mean, if you look at humans historically, I mean, and what they ate, like they're probably in a ketogenic state a majority of time, but there are probably times where they would feast on berries or they would have a ton of protein and they would get kicked out. I think it's normal to have your body switch in and out of different fuel states. And the thing is too, like I can get back into ketosis within, 24 to 36 hours pretty damn easily. Like I would crush sushi a couple of weeks ago. I mean, probably ate 5 cups of rice. And then I just fasted the next day and took some exogenous ketones. And then that night after those wore off, like I was already in a state of ketosis again. It was no big problem.
Yeah, there is no perfect way to do the ketogenic diet. I found that out. Trust me, everybody listening, I know. I've heard thousands of people's stories. I've been a part of a lot of them. I've created a program and since gone back and said, maybe this isn't the best thing. I'm very open-minded. And I get worried because when I come out on YouTube and I say this is the way I do things, I always make sure to clarify that just because I do that this way does not mean that that's the best strategy or approach for you. Also, as an example, another one of my athlete friends does a targeted ketogenic diet. And I've worked with MMA fighters who find that targeted ketogenic diet is the way to go for them. For those who don't know, targeted ketogenic diet is simply taking in carbohydrates before a workout. And so there is no one right way to do keto. Even in all my programs, I have said, listen, you can change this program up. Like you can take everything you learned, and then with experience, you might find that, hey, I'm not going to take my cheat day. You got to create your own program. Don't just buy programs from me and be like, this is gospel. This is what I have to do. Try it, and then eventually you will evolve into do what's best for you and figuring out your own program. And I think it's very important because I do see a lot of it, man. It's especially in the YouTube world. It's, hey, so-and-so over there said this, and then Jason's saying that. And people are like super confused. Like 2 years ago, I said something and that was the law because nobody else was out there talking about it. Now it's like, hey, you said this, but so-and-so over there is telling me to do the opposite. What should I do? Well, you should try both and do what's best for you. That's what you should do.
Right. Yeah, I like this individualized approach. And this is what I always tell people as well. What do you think are some of the top things that people can do to, let's say, individualize things for themselves? Is it toying around with amounts of carbohydrate, with protein, with timing? Like where should people start trying to figure out their own path? And kind of what are the things they should knock off in succession?
I think first of all, I think the people that are most successful with this, in my opinion, are the ones that just throw calories in, calories out to the wind. Because that creates a whole host of other complicated things. Because then people are like, oh, I'm experimenting, but I'm just going to drop my calories 100 and maybe I'll increase it by 200. It's not significant enough of a change to really say I'm making this work for me. I would say you can, like I said before, try practicing with dropping protein for a little while and experiment that way. Taking a harder look at carbs and saying, well, I know Jason's saying that you need 50 grams total carbs or less. So I'm going to hit 50 grams total on the dot. Maybe you'll find out that 40 grams total is better for you. Maybe you'll find out that you might have to go 30 grams total carbs, depending on your level of insulin resistance and all these things. I never tell people during your experimentation to starve yourself more to get results. And I don't ever say you need to go out and buy my workout program because you're just not working out enough. I think there's things you can do. Like I said, manipulating those macros. Maybe you need more fat, maybe you're at 65% fat and you're not feeling the energy. Bump it up a little bit and see, take it up to 5 and see.
And so when you say people should track, they should see, what are the things that you think that they should be looking at? Is it a ketone level?
Yeah.
Is it how they feel or perform?
That backfired on me too. And I see that as a big problem as well. Okay. So I use the pie chart in MyFitnessPal, right? Everybody's probably seen it before. That is my guiding star. Okay. So no matter how many calories I consume, I always reference that pie chart and I have a set goal in mind for the day. That goal is between 70 and 80% fat. If you freak out about that, understand that therapeutically they give patients 90% fat. Yep. So it's all good. 70 to 80% fat, 10 to 20% protein, and 5 to 10% carbs are always less than 50 grams. So I go through my day. I kind of keep referring to that pie chart. At the end of the day, if I'm within those ranges, I'm good to go. I know I'm going to be in fat burning mode, and I know my ketones are going to be high. No matter, I don't even take one look at the calories. I don't give a shit how many calories, because the beauty of this diet is your body is regulated. Insulin levels are under control. You will always be burning fat if you maintain low insulin levels. Some days, hey, I have a rest day today. I'm not going to the gym. I bet you I eat less today. Just naturally, my body's not. But tomorrow is leg day, okay? And I guarantee you, my body's going to say, yo, we need more calories. We need to repair a lot of this broken down muscle tissue. We need to replace a lot of the energy. So that day, I might eat 3,000 calories. Who knows? But as long as I stay within the ratio, as long as I have that guiding star, that pie chart in line, I know I will be successful. And I let my body just take over. I listen to my body. I don't try and override it ever. I've been there so many times, Anthony. I'm so in touch with my body now because I spent half my life overriding it. Hey, you're hungry. No, you're not. And starving myself. You got 10 pounds to lose this week, and just getting those signals and ignoring them is dangerous. Beauty of this diet is when you eat high fat, you get that signal right away. Hey, I'm full. It comes. It's undeniable. And all you have to do is listen to it. The same thing is true. When you get the signal that you're hungry, listen to it. And it's okay. As long as you eat within the ratio, your body will tell you really quick that you're losing. When you're on carbs, though, it's a whole different story. You get that signal, I'm hungry. So you go out and you eat sugar, refined grains, bread, cereals, pastas, bagels. And then I advise you not to listen to your body, because what happens is 2 hours later, blood sugar, insulin levels come plummeting down. The drugs are wearing off and you got to go out and score more, right? So you can't listen to your body in that situation. With the ketogenic diet, it's a beautiful thing because You're so regulated. You can start listening to your impulses. And here's why I'm saying all this. Ideally, you want to get yourself to where you're not a slave to tracking. It's like learning how to dance. That's the way I view it. If you just start the diet, you're learning how to dance. What do you do when you learn how to dance? You count steps off in your head. So every single day, you're counting steps off in your head, looking at that pie chart. Eventually, you need to get more confidence. You know what food you're eating now. You can hit that. So if I take your phone 2 weeks after you start the diet and smash it on the ground, you can look at me and say, it's okay. I know I can hit that ratio without even looking. I'm good. That's when you really make it a lifestyle. When I did the 4,000 calorie challenge, for example, before that, I'm an instinctive dieter, right? I had it down. I just knew I was like a pro at keto. I never measured anything. I was rocking and rolling. Then that day one came. All of a sudden, I'm like focusing on calories, focusing on grams, focusing on all this stuff for 3 weeks. And it took me way out of my element. What was before a lifestyle, now all of a sudden for the next 21 days turned into a nightmare of overthinking everything, of just being so buried in the details that I was on. And it drove me insane, so much so that after that challenge was over, I didn't want to look. I literally didn't know what to do because I lost my instincts. I completely. I was like, I don't even know how to go back to trusting myself and all of that. So I just advise people, tracking is very important in the beginning. Learn how to dance, count the steps off in your head. But if you want to be a good dancer, I don't suggest you count steps in your head forever.
Right. I think that's good for people. You are coming from, I would say, probably a pretty healthy background than most people.
Correct.
I think that for some people, it does make sense in the beginning, but it's not the end all be all. Like if your ketone levels shift a little bit, you don't have to freak out. Like it's just a way to guide you in the right direction, so you can start thinking about how your body is giving you certain signs.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And then so earlier you mentioned about how dairy has no problems with you. Some people, when they have plateaus, it could be due to dairy. So can you explain that a little bit? And then also anything else that you think could be stalling people from their goals of, let's say, weight loss? It's one of the biggest things that I get questions on.
I would actually more or less like to hear your thoughts on the dairy component. I know another thing that gets grouped into that argument is nuts and seeds. And for me, hey, you're the doctor, you're the science guy. Let me ask you that question. Why do you think that taking out dairy is a viable way to get people out of plateau? If you ask me, I'm going to tell you to lower your protein. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say lower your protein, make sure your total carbs are in check and all that stuff. I know there's a lactose component to dairy, but physiologically, I don't know. It's hard for me to kind of say. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I think busting through plateaus is a multifaceted issue. I think that protein is definitely a thing to do. I think the biggest thing that people have problems with, actually, when I've looked and worked with people, is they're not eating enough, period.
Yeah,
and so
totally.
They go from they're just in a starvation mode. And then so they might have really good results for 2-3 months, but then their body's just literally not having enough fuel. And so it says, let me conserve this as much as possible. I am also not a huge fan of the whole calories in, calories out type of movement, but I still think that if people need a certain amount of energy to do basic bodily functions, it's like you need to just eat more in general. That freaks people out because I think that the less they eat, the better. And like you said, fat is a fuel source. If you're not running on this, then your body's going to try to conserve everything you have and not actually burn it and use it. Protein's a good one too. I like after about 80 to 90 grams for me on an average day. Again, like you said, it changes with if I work out or if I don't, if I'm fasting or if I'm not.
But on average.
Yeah, on average, about 80, 90 grams. If I'm over that, I feel like crap. And I notice that I'm less lean. If I'm like, say 150, 140 grams, I'm actually less lean and less muscular than if I reduce that a little bit. And I think that's, again, because I'm in between this stage of using carbs or glucose for fuel versus fat. I think the problem with dairy, yes, you can have some milk sugars that add to the stuff for some people. But I think what, in the case of nuts, seeds, and dairy, what people see some stalling out is not necessarily due to the caloric or food composition point. It's actually due to more of an inflammation standpoint. And so these compounds can lead to inflammation, especially dairy in a lot of people. If you're a white European male, which I'm sure you are, I am, then I think you just have a lot of genetic ability to deal with those foods. If you're starting to get more mixed, not much not much leeway there. And so that can lead to a lot of inflammation. And I think also pounding nuts and seeds and just eating nut butter and nuts all day long. I mean, there's still a lot of omega-6 fats in there. There's a lot of oxidized fat, especially if you're not getting really high quality raw nuts. If you're getting roasted nuts with oils on them, like palm oil and like oils on the nuts already, there's a lot of inflammation that your body has to deal with. And people don't understand that when your body has to do things like process base level inflammation, it can't do anything else the way it's supposed to. And so how do you expect it to use the fuel to actually burn and run your body like a machine like it should be? Like
Interesting.
If it's always shuttling its resources towards fixing things instead of actually building things and cleaning out old cells, then you're actually getting to this point where like you're not effectively using your body the way it should be used.
Very interesting. See, I just learned something big time important. That's awesome. Wow. Makes sense. Makes complete sense. I think it's worth experimenting with. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's worth saying, hey, let me just try and maybe I'm one of the types of people that Anthony just described. Maybe I'll just kind of cut the cheese back a little bit. The nuts, I feel like, are a big problem because they're so easy. They're convenient. And they have carbs in them, you know.
That's a big thing too. Like, people don't realize that nuts do have carbohydrates.
Yeah. And when it comes to nuts, just to clarify this for everybody, me personally, I stick with macadamia nuts, are like the king of nuts, in my opinion. They're highest in fat, lowest in carbs and protein. Almonds are good, walnuts and pecans. The only nuts that I avoid are peanuts, cashews, and pistachios because they are higher glycemic, meaning they have a higher carb content, low fat, so they'll spike your blood sugar more. So you could even just start saying, well, maybe I'll just, instead of cutting out nuts completely, maybe I'll just stick with macadamia nuts and see how that goes. Right. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So you mentioned how you worked with tons of people. You had this program before, Keto Cycle.
Correct.
Change your mind on that. Like, one of the things I love about you, and you and I are very similar in this respect, is that prove me wrong. Like, I would love to be proved wrong and change my mind, because that means I'm learning and getting better. If I'm always stuck with what I knew 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, I'm just not learning. And I think that being able to strip away your ego and move forward and update your mindset and be honest about that, like, it's a good display of a lack of ego.
Let me just go on a rant since you brought that up, because it just brings something out very important. I'm in the fitness industry, okay? I deal with some of the biggest names in the game, okay? And a lot since the ketogenic diet has kind of gotten big, you see people like myself who all of a sudden are half to left questioning, just like I had to do as a wrestler, now trying to train people and calories in, calories out. It took a lot of ego checking to be able to try a different philosophy, to understand maybe I don't know everything, right? But people in my industry, you know, they are, instead of saying, let me open my mind up, see what this keto stuff's all about, and they want to rail against it. They want to talk shit about it. They want to say it's not sustainable. It's going to kill you. And that to me is sad, but I understand why, because they've been out preaching something. They have programs around this stuff, if it fits your macros, all this other stuff. And they don't want to, instead of understanding it, they fear it. And so they just, like, I keep getting people, most recently, just, it's like there's an attack on the keto world from people like myself who have big followings, you know, are going to tell you that, hey, just because I can eat carbs, you can too. And that's the truth, Anthony. Like, I can eat carbs, okay? If there is such a thing as insulin sensitive people and insulin resistant people, right. we won't go into all that. But I can eat all the carbs I want, and I'm never going to get fat, ever. That's just the way I was born. You can thank my parents for it. It's all good. But does that mean that I'm going to go out and tell everybody out there that, hey, you can eat carbs? What are you talking about? Carbs don't make you fat. Are you crazy? Look at me. That is where I think the tragedy lies. It's, hey, this is the proof. This is the science. These are things coming out, you know, and be open-minded about it. And just because you want to do things your way, you know, don't bash what's working for a lot of people. So yeah, that's what I have to deal with. You know, there's a lot of infighting in the keto world. Who's doing it the right way? Who should I take my advice from? I'm looking at it like from my peers who are out telling everybody, hey, if it fits your macros, you can eat Pop-Tarts, you can eat all this stuff as long as you don't go over your calories. Right, you're good. Right. You're good. And it's, you know, and you can eat all this stuff and don't do keto because you're going to lose muscle and die. And so those are the people that I'm after. I'm coming for them because it's a lie. Let's be honest. 2/3 of the people in this country suffer from obesity. Diabetes is skyrocketing. Kids at 12 years old are getting diabetes. 100 years ago, you would have had 1 in 1,000 probably diagnosed with diabetes. Now it's 1 in 10.
Right.
So it's a serious responsibility for somebody in my position and yours to go out and speak the truth. You can be adaptable. You can say, hey, there's not a one size fit all approach, but this is the truth. That's all there is to it. So how's that for a rant?
Yeah, I love it, man.
It means a lot. It really upsets me because every step I see myself and everybody else taking forward in this movement, there's going to be people out there with huge followings that have a reason to say, don't do this, it's crazy. Because, but there have been other fitness people in my industry who I've been very surprised, who have said, I'm going to give this keto thing a try, even though I've been preaching calories in, calories out, if it fits your macros, reverse dieting, all this other made up stuff. They still are open-minded. They give it a shot. I respect those people. I do not respect the people who, under any circumstance whatsoever, will tell you that you can eat carbs. Because I deal with a lot of people that cannot eat carbs, period, straight up, end of story. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, and just because one person is successful at something doesn't mean that an individual will also be successful at that. And so they say like, oh, well, this like CrossFit athletes, especially that I work with, or this one CrossFitter does keto, therefore everybody, like, you could do it. I'm like, like you're kind of overweight, you don't sleep much, you're really stressed out at work, you're doing CrossFit 7 times a week and training for a marathon, and you're not eating very well. I don't think this is going to work out well for you.
Yeah. You know what I think what it really boils down to for me, and what I've really just ridden home on, what really motivates me, is I think of all the people out there who they know they're overweight, right? They failed many times at trying to lose weight, and they say to themselves, I'm going to lose weight, and the only way I know how to do it is to starve myself and go get a gym membership. And they always fail, and eventually one failure leads to the next, and then they sit there and tell themselves, fuck it, it's not even worth it. Why even try? I'm doomed. It's just, I'll blame my genetics, but there's I'm helpless. And I think the biggest impact the ketogenic diet has made is it's taken all of those disenchanted people who have blamed themselves forever and who have thought that there was no solution. It has given them hope. And it has let them know that, hey, maybe you were lied to. Maybe you had it all backwards. Maybe you were told the wrong information. Give it one more chance. And those people, they will give it a chance because, why not? They have nothing to lose at the point.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing I've seen is it's just given so many. That's why this movement is so powerful, is because it's given hope to the hopeless. And nobody, you can talk all the stuff you want. It's not going to change that. And then you take it in the medical industry and that stuff, and you see the things that are happening there, and it's even more mind blowing. So if anybody out there is listening right now and you're like, should I do the ketogenic diet or not? You're most likely saying, I failed at everything else. This is the answer for you. Go in at 100%, jump all in, keep it simple, and give it a shot, because it's worked for a lot of people.
Love it, man. Anything big that you've changed your mind on besides obviously eating carbs and fat in keto and low carb versus ketogenic diet? Keto cycling?
No, I think I'm sure I will continue to evolve. Obviously, I have, I'm always, but I don't think there's anything else that I've learned that will make a big, dramatic difference to the person listening. I think just take what you and I have said and run with it and keep it simple. And I think it's difficult. Like I said, I keep going back to when I first started this 2 years ago. There was almost no information out there. I couldn't look up Anthony and Perfect Keto stuff, and I couldn't buy Perfect Keto products. I couldn't listen to the information Anthony was talking about now. And that was a virtue back then. That was a huge benefit because I took the limited information, the fundamentals, and I nailed them. I nailed them. Now there's so much information that people get paralysis by analysis. And they're like, I talk to some people and I'm like, hey, so how long have you been thinking about doing keto? Oh, for like 4 months I've been doing research. What? Like what? And so because they just get confused. So I would just advise people, like, focus on the basics and the fundamentals. Carbs are bad. Kick them out. Keep the protein under control. Fat is not your enemy. In fact, it's your best friend. Right. Take that, and then you'll evolve yourself, just like I did. But if you get too like, I'm going to do this perfect, and so-and-so said this, I'm going to combine it with so-and-so said over there, and then you're done. It's not going to work. So focus on just keeping it simple, and you will evolve. And
just get started. Right. And
just get started.
Thing, like that I've seen too is like people are just, like you said, there's too much information at this point and too much conflicting information. You just got to start picking away and seeing what works for you.
Yeah, and you just jump off the cliff, man, and you'll learn how to fly on the way down. If I had to do it, you're going to have to do it that way too. Okay. Like filter out some of the minor details, focus on the basics, and set sail, man.
Love it. And so went through the Keto Cycle program, you shut that down. What's next for where you're spending your time?
So I wanted to basically find a way to move all the people that are in this movement. I wanted to find a way to bring everybody together. I wanted to find a way to focus more on the journey and support people who are on a journey. So instead of doing like a 30-day challenge, 60-day challenge, I basically created the first ever ongoing transformation challenge. So it's called Keto Quest. And essentially, when you pay $30 to get in, you can join at any time you want. At the end of every single month, we are going to announce winners from amazing companies. You have a chance to win every single month. You pay once and you go on the ride. The longer you stay committed, the more chance you have of winning each month. So in that way, it's just a one-time fee, and we just reward you for staying committed. The first ever one was just announced a few days ago. I personally, Anthony, want to thank you very much for being a part of it. So second place prize is $500 cash plus an entire month's supply of Perfect Keto. There are multiple winners. It's not just one winner. But I pride myself in lining myself up with companies who feel the same way I do and who are in it more about the journey and like you yourself. The reason I totally 100% respect you is because you're not just out pumping products. You're out helping people with knowledge. Look at what you're doing right now. Like you focus more on the education and supporting people along the journey, and you understand the value in that. And you have totally transparent, 100% effective products. And so I just want to thank you for being a part of it. Our values and mission line up perfectly. So anybody who's listening, all you have to do, you pay $30, you take a before picture. At the end of every month, you upload a new picture, and you have a chance to win $500 cash plus 1 month free supply of Perfect Keto products.
And where is that?
KetoQuest.com.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I love about you and that why we get along so well is that we're always trying to figure out ways for this to actually be a sustainable lifestyle. And so that's what you were doing with Keto Cycle. Found a better way. Now you're doing it. Same thing what we're doing with content and the products. It's not about just trying to make money. Like it's about trying to make this as accessible and easy for people to actually make change as much as possible. Yeah. So appreciate that.
We are life changers. We are in the business of changing lives. And a lot of times in this industry, you come across people who are not focused on that. And I always make sure I line myself up with other people and other companies who at their core say to everybody in the room, guys, we're on a mission to change lives. What's the best way to do it? Right. And so thank you.
Love it, man.
And everybody go sign up for KetoQuest.com.
Yeah. I mean,
let's do this. Let's do this, man. Yeah, definitely.
So, I like to, just before we wrap up, chat about 4 different things that I think contribute to health, and like to get your opinion on how you personally approach them, and then one tip kind of giveaway. So 4 pillars of health that I think are just nutrition, movement, stress, and sleep. So I know obviously you're mostly ketogenic, but can you just walk us through a day of nutrition, what you kind of eat, and then one big takeaway that what you would have people change if one thing?
So I eat a lot of eggs, first and foremost. As we may or may not have discussed, protein spikes insulin. There's actually something called an insulin index. Eggs rank the lowest, meaning they spike blood sugar and insulin the lowest. They're also packed with tons of vitamins and minerals. So I eat like 4 to 6 eggs a day. It's a staple of my diet. I also take in a lot of oils, so avocado oil, macadamia oil, and especially extra virgin olive oil, and of course coconut oil. I use butter and I cook with it. I do take green leafy vegetables in. I'm not going to lie, since Perfect Keto came out with the micros, the greens product, that has been a lifesaver for me. So I take that. I also take the MCT oil powder. Not shameless plug here, but this is just the truth.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Yeah, I'm not turning into a salesman here. I'm just telling you what I do on a daily basis. I use the MCT oil powder. I will sometimes take the exogenous ketones before a workout, but I really focus on getting good, clean, whole food. Salmon is a very underrated thing in my opinion. Peeling nuts I just discovered.
Those things are amazing.
They're fantastic. They're absolutely incredible. So I'll go between those and macadamia nuts. And that's kind of avocados. I can't, how are you going to forget about the avocados? They're absolutely critical on this diet. If you don't like avocados, dump a bunch of salt on them, or you can use guacamole. But I need to say this because this is one of the main reasons why people fail. So I focus heavily on electrolytes. Very, very important on this diet. We won't go into why, just trust me that it is. There's 3 electrolytes that I focus on, and you should too. One of them is sodium. I drink chicken broth. I use red and real salt, Himalayan pink salt. I salt all my food. I eat salty snacks. If I get into a situation where I feel tired, headache, lethargic, dizzy, I will take chicken broth from Kettle and Fire specifically. So I really make sure that my sodium level is up. That's a whole nother animal. Salt's been demonized. Like, everybody's like, no way, I can't do that. But trust me, if you go low sodium on this diet, if your sodium level goes down, so do you. It's end of story, all there is to it. So I really focus a lot on getting the sodium. Potassium is where the avocado comes in. Also, nuts give a little bit of that, green leafy vegetables. So I make sure I keep that stuff up. And then I take a magnesium supplement. And that's the third and final one. So I always make sure I keep that in check.
Awesome. Is that your tip? Look at your minerals?
Yes, that is my tip. Focus on electrolytes. You don't have to track them religiously. Like, they recommend 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium. I don't personally track it. Like, I just make sure I get an abundance of it. If you start feeling tired, headache, lethargic, you know your sodium levels are down. Make sure you eat the avocado. So yes, focus on electrolytes. Because here's what happens. People don't find that out, and they start on their diet, and all of a sudden, a week in, they feel like crap, and they're like, oh, this is the worst diet ever. All they had to do is drink some chicken broth, and they would have been okay. And it's just sad to see people fail when they don't know. All you have to do is, keep those electrolytes up. So that is a very important tip. Yeah.
Yeah. Good plug with Kettle on Fire there. That's actually what I was drinking in my mug when I told you I was drinking the bone broth. So
yeah. Do you do the chicken and would you do the mushroom?
Chicken and mushroom with, it's funny you said that, with ghee, MCT oil, and a ton of salt. So.
Nice. I got to start adding. I got to step my chicken broth game up. But that stuff is incredible. Another amazing company. So yeah, shameless plug on them. They deserve it. They deserve a plug because they're amazing.
All right. Movement. How are you doing? Movement, workouts, movement throughout the day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I never want to talk about myself. Like, I'm always.
Well, that's how people learn, man.
Yeah. I know. I'm a self-conscious person, though. What works for me does not work for everybody else. Here's the deal. It's easier for a guy like me to say, hey, go buy my workout program, do the bodybuilding stuff, this many sets, this many reps, these types of exercises. Unfortunately, it's here's the way it is. Find what you love. Okay, working out is a bonus. I get people to ask me all the time, hey, if I want to look like that, is it all diet? Is it all workout? Like, they want to know like what the percentage is between diet and exercise. It's 100% diet. Trust me. Go look at every one of my pictures on Instagram and make sure you like and follow me. And I will tell you this, I would never look like that if I did not have my diet in check. I could work out as much as I wanted to. I could follow any workout program ever. If my diet wasn't 100% spot on, neither's my physique. So when it comes to working out, I see it's a value added thing. It's a bonus thing. There's so many amazing benefits psychologically, physically that you're going to get from it. Yes, it's going to help you get maybe past plateaus. But if you don't do what you love, again, it's not sustainable. And what ends up happening is, especially for people that are brand new, they're like, I'm going to do this January 1st. Here's what everybody's going to do. They're going to jump on the ketogenic diet. And if they don't have a gym membership, they're going to say, I'm going to go get a gym membership. I'm going to hire a trainer. I'm going to go all out in the gym. And chances are they haven't worked out before. They're going to get their ass kicked in the gym. And they're going to feel like a failure in the gym, and it's going to trickle down, and they just give up everything, right? They're like, well, what's the use in doing the diet because I was over here, getting my ass kicked, and I don't want to have that happen anymore. Right. So I just want to say there is no one right way to work out. If you love CrossFit, do CrossFit. If you want to take walks with your dog, take walks with your dogs. If you want to do wind sprints, for God's sakes, do it. You want to be a bodybuilder, go do it. You want to do powerlifting, do it. Whatever you love is what you should do, and that will give you the longest results. I see a lot of people that they overanalyze that too. It's like, just get moving, man. Right. You'll eventually, if you throw yourself out there and try a bunch of different things, you'll find what you love. Maybe you start off getting your ass kicked by a trainer bodybuilding style in the gym. You're like, yeah, this ain't for me. Maybe I'll go move to CrossFit. Yeah, it's not for me. Maybe I'll just do yoga now. You'll eventually, through trial and error, figure out what your passion is when it comes to moving. But you must move.
Very similar advice that I give.
Perfect. Thank God.
What's your stress management looking like?
I have a 1.5-year-old son. So I guess the better question is, how stressed are you? He keeps me active, man. And what I do is just a very stressful thing. I take on other people's problems. That's the business I'm in. My problems don't mean shit. I'm too busy focused on people's problems, and I absorb a lot of other people's problems, and I try and internalize them so that I can effectively help them solve them. That can be very, very, very stressful. On top of working out, all that stuff. So I cannot say in all honesty that I have a good stress management mechanism. Maybe when we get off the phone here, you can suggest a few things. But I do it as one of the areas where I need to focus on, and I need to have some kind of strategy.
So I already know how you do it, man. You just are always incredibly positive. Like your mindset and positivity is unlike any other people that I've met. So I think that's perfect. One way that you deal with it. So
that's my coping mechanism. Hey, that's a good coping mechanism then. I appreciate that. So, but we all need, stress, and going back to plateaus again. It's one of the things you do have 100%. You got to keep it under control, man. So yeah, it's a good question.
Cool. So I'll give a tip for you there. Stay positive. What about your sleep?
Perfect.
What does that look like?
Again, I have a 1.5-year-old son, so it's not the best. But I try and it's weird because I'm one of those people where I'm always like up at night, just like you, I'm sure, just thinking of a million things. You know what I mean? Like, just never stop thinking, and sometimes it can be an issue. I go to bed usually around 11 o'clock. Anything after that, I'm like, I wake up 7 o'clock, rise and grind, get Paxton in order and stuff. But I feel like my sleep's overall pretty good, to be honest.
Love it. Any tips to get better sleep?
This might not be a great tip, but and what's interesting is a lot of people on the ketogenic diet, once they first enter ketosis, I get questions all the time like, I can't sleep. I don't personally know why that is, but it's happened a few times to me intermittently, and I have gone and taken either a combination of magnesium and calcium, seemed to put me to sleep on trouble, and I've also taken melatonin, and that has helped me as well.
Yeah, magnesium is a huge thing that people, minerals in general, it's tough to get enough on a ketogenic diet, like you were harping on before. And so I think that can actually help with sleep a lot.
Interesting.
All right, Jason. So, we could rant and rave all day about this type of stuff. Where can people find you on Instagram, where they're supposed to go like every photo?
and make sure you follow me, and I'll follow you back.
Yeah, of course.
It's just Jason Wittrock. I think there's a period between Jason. And my last name is spelled Wittrock. The majority of my time and attention is focused on YouTube. So you can follow me on YouTube as well. Just search my name, Wittrock. Welcome you into my life. And of course, you can sign up for Keto Quest at ketoquest.com.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing all the good work
thank you so much.
Hopefully see you soon in either SF or Austin.
Yeah. Keep changing lives, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Keto Answers podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, but even if you didn't, I would love a review. Just go over to iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and pop in a review so we can get found by more people, get better guests, and have the information that you need. So please go to iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. And if you're new to keto, head on over to perfectketo.com/podcast and enter your email for all our top tips and guides on getting started with the ketogenic diet. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.